Try and share that. There we go. All right, we seem to be back. When you see terms like SC, that's service check-in. The other service volume that we have is our service drive-through. That is supposed to be a D and a T. Those two kind of go together. Most of you will see a circle with a P, and that stands for parts. And there is no size assigned to the parts area right now. I'm just letting you know ahead of time that the parts area has to have an outside wall. It has to be directly adjacent the shop, and it has to be away from any of the entrance for the service check-in or the service drive-through. We want that on the opposite side of the dealership. What is this area right here? Well, that's going to be all of our admin type stuff and associated uses like washrooms and so on, lounges. And then our final component is out here, which is actually the showroom. And if you happen to see a circle, and that's meant to be a V, that's a vestibule. And for the most part, I'd like you to have the vestibule inside the curtain wall of the dealership. It's going to be least costly that way to construct it, and it's going to be a space that's very easy to keep warm. If you want it to project away from the front wall of the showroom, that's perfectly fine. Just realize that that becomes a very cold aquarium in the winter, and it becomes a boiling hot solarium usually in the summer. Very hard to regulate. Just for scale, for this particular markup, you'll see 3 vehicles there, and although this one is crashing through the wall, your showroom only needs to be big enough for 3 to 4 cars, and they don't all necessarily be pointed the same way. Maybe there's 3 that are diagonal, and there's a couple out the front here that are feature vehicles. All of that detail is weeks and weeks away. Your target, what you're going to try to do to achieve in the next day and a half or 2 days, depending on when your lab is this week, is you want to take this marked up floor plan, and you each have one, although I think I may be about 2 students short still from having those submitted. But you're going to take this marked up plan, start a new Revit file, preserve in several places your design from last semester, start fresh. This is going to be a really small file initially, and we'll build up over time. And we're going to start from the macro level, big picture, and we're going to work to the details, of the floor plan after the second half, and eventually working to the details of the wall sections. Big picture to small picture, macro to micro. So, make note of this. I'll probably put in the announcement. Your marked up floor plans you will find on my K-Scratch drive. K-Scratch under Hergot. And they're all just ones that I have, the ones that have been marked up are sitting in there. Just grab your own, download it, make a hard copy if you want, or you can work off of the PDF, but you may want to mark it up a little bit, almost like I have here. And that will be your design for the semester, and this will be your starting point. What you want to do by the time we have the lab later this week is you want a new outline. That's all. And in the next video, I'll give you some guidance in that regard. When you have your new outline, check the building area, the gross building area. You want it to be between 1,100 and 1,400 square meters. That's it. If it's more than that, it's too big. Cut some off of the edges, cut some off of the front. And if, in many cases, in most cases, I looked at the showrooms, and if there was some detail to it, like this had an arc, another plan had a double arc, some had a sloped face to the showroom, or if it was really too boring and didn't look like it had a lot of interest, I added a slope or I added some corners. What I don't want any of you to create, because it's not very exciting, is one big box. We have enough of those dealerships that are one big box. And the one that comes to mind is the Audi dealership in Kitchener. Now, the cladding on that building is wicked expensive, but it's one big box. I think it could be a lot more exciting than that. And they could have actually saved a little bit on materials because they didn't need all of that volume. Anyways, I digress. This is one of the sample plans. And let me just move to another sample plan. Just to give you an idea. And here's a guideline for your shop if it's a two-sided shop. 22.5 meters inside. And I came up with that very simply. 7.5 meters, a 7.5 meter aisle. This is far too narrow. You're not going to be able to turn into a work bay. And then another 7.5, and that's on the inside. So what would you do if you had a one-sided shop? Well, 7.5 meter aisle, 7.5 meter bay. This particular design, as I've marked it up, has a two-sided shop. It has a service drive-through component, a service check-in component. Parts is on the far side here with an outside wall directly against the wall of the shop. And right now, I don't know if that parts area needs to be that big. It probably doesn't. It could probably be in that area right there. But what's important is it's on that side of the building. I want you to start thinking about that. I already talked about the showroom being a volume and not wanting to create a bunch of boxes. So how does the showroom volume transition from the administration volume? And what's that going to look like in terms of building height? Well, here's one possibility. Maybe this shape right here is the showroom. And this bit here pops up from the rest of it. Or maybe it's even more interesting than that. It does something like that and links between the two. There's lots of possibilities. The key thing is your outline not being too big. One final item on this video before I break into the next one is you can keep the Tesla dealership brand if you want to. That's entirely up to you. However, I'd like you to consider changing to a brand that you're probably more loyal to or more interested in. Something that you drive now or something that you aspire to drive. You know, maybe after you graduate, you want to go out and get yourself a nice Lexus or BMW or what have you. So I really encourage you to select something other than Tesla. if not only for the reason that for every one Tesla dealership that is built, there's at least 100 other manufacturing car dealerships that are built or, in fact, already exist. I want you to own this project, and one of the ways you do that is with the brand, differentiating it from your classmates. Now, in doing that, what I don't want you to do is grab an exotic brand. I don't want to see even Porsche dealerships. Don't want to see them. You can be Volkswagen, Audi if you want, but drop the Porsche. No Ferraris, no Lambos, no Maybachs, no McLarens, no Paganis, no Koenigseggs. So keep it domestic and import. And one more thing, for any of you out there that are motorcycle or bike enthusiasts, you can have a dual dealership. And there's a few naturals when it comes to that. Obviously, Honda, cars and bikes. Another one is BMW, cars and bikes. Those are easy. And we could stretch that a little bit further. For example, if you were to do a GMC truck dealership or a Jeep dealership, something that's a little bit rugged, a bike manufacturer that could go with that is KLM, for example. KLM could fit with any of them because they're not hooked up to other manufacturers. I'm not aware of them having any exclusive with any of the car dealerships. And then in between those 2 points, you could do something like Fiat Vespa or Alfa Romeo Vespa. So they can, and these can be e-bikes even if you want. Again, own the project, mix it up, get excited about it, make it your own, personalize it. That's the intent. That's all for this video. We'll be back shortly.